New polling out this morning from the New York Times showing Vice President Kamala Harris with a 5-point lead in Arizona, a 2-point lead in North Carolina, and gaining ground in both Nevada and Georgia. So these results, they're all within the margin of error. But folks, it's a sign that with Kamala Harris, it may not be momentum, but a movement. And for Donald Trump, it just may be a war.
Kamala Harris is seriously gaining traction in the polls, especially in those key battleground states that everyone's watching. And let's be real, this isn't just some flash in the pan. We're not talking about a temporary bump from a well-timed speech or a flashy campaign ad. What we're seeing is something much more significant, a movement that's starting to build up steam, and that's a big deal. Momentum is nice, sure, but it's often just a burst of energy that can disappear just as quickly as it came. A movement, though? That's a whole different story. It's something that's built to last, something that's driven by a deeper connection with the voters, not just a few good news cycles. Harris isn't just riding the wave of being the first woman, first Black, and first South Asian vice president. She's doing something more important. She's connecting with people on a level that goes beyond identity politics. She's reaching out to folks who feel like they've finally found someone in the political arena who understands them, who reflects their lives and their struggles. That's why she's not just picking up support. She's building a broad, diverse coalition that could really shake things up. This isn't just a campaign gaining steam. It's the start of something that could reshape the political landscape in a big way. Harris is laying the groundwork for a movement that has the potential to redefine what's possible in American politics.
So it's absolutely obvious that Kamala Harris not only has momentum, but there's a vibe. There is a vibe and mood shift in this campaign that we have not seen since 2008. And I can say that now after we've seen consistently the enthusiasm, the excitement, the joy, the hopefulness, the decency. All of these things are attractive to the American people, and the polls are reflecting that in all the right places.
Harris is doing more than just running a typical campaign. She's making real connections with voters, especially in areas where Democrats have traditionally struggled. What stands out is the vibe she's generating, a mood that's reminiscent of the excitement we saw with Obama back in 2008. If you think back to that time, it wasn't just about winning an election. It was about inspiring a new wave of voters, bringing fresh energy into the political arena, and changing the entire game. That kind of impact doesn't happen often, but when it does, it can reshape the political landscape for years to come. Harris is starting to tap into that same kind of energy. She's not just gaining support, she's igniting a movement that feels like it could really shift the dynamics of American politics. This isn't just about one election cycle. It's about laying the groundwork for something much bigger. She's connecting with people on a level that goes beyond the usual campaign rhetoric, creating a sense of momentum that could redefine how we think about politics in this country.
Since Kamala Harris has joined this race to now are undeniable. And what we're seeing, and especially places like Arizona, that's encouraging for me, because what's happening in Arizona, there is a ballot initiative with abortion on the ballot in Arizona, where they just had a record-setting amount of signatures to get that initiative qualified on the ballot. That is telling you that the issue of women's rights and women's reproductive health and the idea of keeping the government out of their medical exams and out of their bedrooms and out of their personal decisions is resonating across the country. And you can see in other states where even Nevada, that also has a ballot initiative.
Let's dive into women's rights, particularly reproductive rights. This isn't some minor issue, it's become a major rallying cry. In states like Arizona and Nevada, where abortion initiatives are on the ballot, Harris is gaining significant support. Why? Because both women and men are looking at the rollback of Roe v. Wade and saying, no way, not on our watch. The erosion of reproductive rights has hit a nerve, sparking a movement that's pushing back hard. It's not just about defending the right to choose. It's about standing up against what many see as an attack on personal freedom and autonomy. Harris's strong stance on this issue resonates deeply, turning reproductive rights into a central and mobilizing force in her campaign, and connecting with voters who are ready to fight back against any attempts to strip away these fundamental rights. Here's the thing. When you get record numbers of signatures to get abortion issues on the ballot, that's not just a sign of political engagement. That's a flashing neon sign saying, we're fired up and we're voting. Harris, who's been loud and clear about her stance on protecting these rights, is perfectly positioned to harness this energy. And let's be honest, in a post-Roe world, the stakes couldn't be higher. This isn't just about securing support from the usual blue state voters. It's about turning the tables in regions where the GOP thought they had it all sewn up. When you hear that the issue of women's rights and women's reproductive health is resonating across the country, it says it all. This isn't some fringe concern anymore. It's become a central issue that's grabbing everyone's attention. It's not just a talking point. It's a powerful force driving people to the polls, with the potential to shift the balance of power in a big way. Women's rights have moved to the forefront of political discourse, and they're becoming a key factor in shaping the outcome of upcoming elections. The GOP's stronghold is being challenged as this issue rallies voters across the board, making it clear that the fight for reproductive rights could be a game changer.
As well, you can see where this is galvanizing women because they're looking at their choices here. Women are looking at the choice between Donald Trump, who has a history of calling them crazed, unhinged, nasty, and everything else, the litany of issues with Donald Trump. And then you have J.D. Vance, who has managed to offend every demographic of women, from cat ladies to older women. This is not a good sign for a presidential campaign that needs those moderate swing state voters, particularly women, if they think they're going.
Let's break down the GOP's ongoing fiasco with women, especially how they just can't seem to stop ticking them off. J.D. Vance, in a stroke of genius, decided to go after childless cat ladies, like that's gonna win him any points. Newsflash, it's not. Vance's attempt to belittle women without kids isn't just offensive. It's like setting your own campaign on fire. Seriously, who thought this was a good idea? By spewing this kind of outdated, misogynistic nonsense, he's not just being a jerk, he's driving voters away faster than you can say, election loss. In a world where women's rights are dominating headlines, Vance's comments are a masterclass in how to alienate half the electorate. Instead of expanding the GOP's reach, he's shrinking it, making sure the party's appeal is about as broad as a toothpick. It's not just a bad look, it's political kamikaze.
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too.
They spoil him, there's sort of all the classic stuff that grandparents do to grandchildren, but it makes him a much better human being to have exposure to his grandparents.
Well, I don't know.
And the evidence on this, by the way, is like super clear.
That's the whole purpose of the postmenopausal
Yes.
female in theory. But let me ask you a question, not knowing the answer.
Please.
When your child was born, did your in-laws, and particularly your mother-in-law, show up in some huge way?
She lived with us for a year.
Right.
So, you know.
So I didn't know the answer to that.
Right. No,
because that's
yeah.
this weird unadvertised feature of marrying an Indian woman.
No, yeah.
I mean,
The GOP's strategy seems to be doubling down on the MAGA base with all its toxic masculinity and outdated views on women. But here's the kicker. They need more than just their die-hard fans to win elections. They need those moderate, swing state voters, especially women, and they're driving them away in droves. Let's be real. Insulting women isn't just bad manners, it's bad politics. The quote that, "This is not a good sign for a presidential campaign that needs those moderate swing state voters, particularly women, if they think they're going to win," hits the nail on the head. The GOP can't keep catering to the fringe and expect to stay competitive on a national level. They're painting themselves into a corner, and it's not a pretty picture. And let's not forget the larger implication here. The GOP's embrace of misogyny isn't just alienating women. It's turning off a lot of men too, men who don't want to be associated with that kind of nastiness. The party's obsession with figures like Trump and Vance is like watching a slow-motion train wreck. They're clinging to a base that's shrinking, while the rest of the country is moving forward. Meanwhile, Harris is out there embodying the exact opposite: decency, respect, and empowerment. And that's why she's connecting with voters in a way that the GOP just isn't.
compassion and rule of law, or a country of chaos, fear, and hate? And here's the beauty of this moment. We each have the power to answer that question. The power is with the people. We each have the power to answer that question. And in the next 105 days, then we have work to do. We have doors to knock on, we have phone calls to make, we have voters to register, and we have an election to win.
So what does all this mean? We could be on the verge of a major shift in how we think about leadership in this country. Kamala Harris isn't just making waves, she's tapping into something much deeper. She's channeling the power of women's rights, taking a stand against blatant misogyny, and reintroducing hope and decency into the national conversation. This goes beyond any single campaign. It's about the future direction of our society. While some are clinging to outdated strategies, Harris is spearheading a movement that's focused on redefining our values, what we expect from our leaders, and what kind of country we want to build. If she can keep this momentum alive, we might just see a transformation in how we engage with each other, moving away from division and hate toward a new era of inclusivity and respect. It's a tall order, but if anyone's up for the challenge, it's Harris. The journey is just beginning, and the stakes couldn't be higher. And that's it for today. If you found this analysis helpful and want more content like this, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time.